The 8th of May 2020 marks the 75th anniversary of VE Day. VE Day stands for Victory in Europe Day, and it marks the day when the Second World War came to a close in Europe. After years of rationing and hardship, civilians on the home front celebrated with great community spirit, coming together in street parties and celebrating under strings of coloured bunting. Making patchwork and quilts during wartime was difficult, as fabric was one of the many things in short supply. Clothing was rationed from the 1st of June 1941, and everyone was allowed just 66 coupons to buy their clothing for the next year and a half. Women were encouraged by Mrs. So-and-so to make, do and mend to ensure the family had sufficient clothing. They were told to patch clothes, make a new outfit from 2 old garments, repurpose adult clothing into children's clothing, and pull out worn woolen jumpers and re-knit them again. The utility scheme was introduced by the government to make sure that materials weren't wasted. This restricted the amount of fabric that could be used in making clothing, with all approved utility clothing bearing the CC41 mark. Surviving examples of patchwork and quilting from the 1940s in the Quilters Guild Museum Collection include a good number of quilts sent to us in our hour of need from charities in Canada and America, such as the Canadian Red Cross Society. Thousands of quilts were sent across to help those whose possessions had been lost in the bombing raids all across Britain, and these quilts were also used in armed forces accommodation and hospitals. They were often made very quickly from whatever was to hand, and people recycled any unwanted fabric and clothing, cutting them up and making them into quilts to send across to Britain. Crazy patchwork was a popular design, as it could be made from many different scraps of fabric. Striped flannelette or brushed cotton, usually used for comfy pyjamas, was often used as a backing fabric. Various different quilting techniques were used, from very quick and simple tying technique to very neat hand stitching, depending on the time and the skill of the maker. Each quilt has its own story. This very stylish strippy style Canadian Red Cross quilt was given to a family in Kent whose house was hit by a doodlebug when they were away on holiday with their neighbours. With no house or possessions, the owner remembers staying at his grandparents' house until they were able to find a new home in 1945. This is when they received a Red Cross parcel containing this quilt. This V for Victory quilt contains a special patriotic print. The letter V has the ... for V in Morse code inside the printed letter. It was given to a woman who lived in West Croydon. Her home and all her possessions suffered damage 5 times during the air raids, and this quilt gave her some much-needed comfort in very tough times. Fabric rationing continued until 1952, but people continued to make patchwork and quilts from any scraps of fabric they had, recycling those things they no longer wanted. If you were really lucky, you might find a parachute that had come down in a nearby field. This would give you a large quantity of fabric that could be dyed different colours and put to good use. Parachute silk isn't usually found in patchwork bed covers, as it's a bit thin and silky, but this fabulous crazy patchwork dressing gown shows it was perfect as a lining material, with ample to spare for many other projects. All the quilts shown here are part of the Quilters Guild Museum Collection. We have many more in our collection that we are proud to protect and preserve for future generations. If you would like to see some more examples, ranging from the 18th century to the present day, then take a look at our website at www.quiltmuseum.org.uk.